What's up, guys? So Konami have released a new selection contract. Now, it doesn't use nominating contracts. It's like a new selection thing. So you're only limited to one of these guys. So you're going to have to pick right. And they all have Showtime skills as well. So because you can only pick one, I think it's important that you pick the correct player. So today we're going to look at the player stats, what skills they have, and then give the best build and the best skills. So regardless of which player you end up picking, you can get the best out of the cards. So I've already had a look at them. We'll start off with Hwang. Now Hwang is a dummy runner. I wouldn't say dummy runner is something that makes or breaks the card. Dummy runners in theory should kind of prioritize making runs that drag defenders out of position to make space for the other players around them. To be honest, I find they don't really do that well, but also that they still make runs for themselves. So it doesn't really seem too different than the other player roles like goal poacher or dummy runner. It would be more similar to goal poacher if anything, because they kind of actively make a lot of runs. But he's actually looking not too bad at the start just because of that very high weak foot too. And then skills wise, he obviously has a full set with phenomenal pass. And I think phenomenal pass on a forward player is pretty good because phenomenal pass helps you with off balance passes. And the type of player that is off balance more often than not is a player in the final third. And they're, same way like whole players. Whole players are making forward runs. There's a lot of momentum when they're moving with the ball. So the phenomenal pass kind of helps a player like that. But if we just look at his build, you can see here, this is what I went for. So if we just take the boost off for a sec, you can see we're getting the 85 finishing, 85 speed, and 85 balance. Unfortunately, we didn't get the 85 kick and power on this build. If we were to do that, we'd probably have to take it off like the shooting or the dexterity, which I think is too important. I guess you could take off the could you get it? No, even if you try take off all of the dribbling and aerial strength, you still can't get the 85 kick and power. So I think the way we had it does suit the card best. So just like this. Now these cards are double boosters, so you do get an option to put a second booster on. But if we just go back to the card again, pretty much all the stats that we've invested in are at an 85 threshold for the +3. So it really doesn't matter where we redistribute the points. So honestly, like this booster doesn't really matter too much. Like, fantasy still might work because it actually gets you to 89 finishing and an 89 balance. The form should take that up to a 90. So not a terrible card, but not something or a player that really stands out too much. He does have decent aggression as well, so he might be able to defend from the front. And they did give him track back to start, so that is a good option. Alongside that super sub to bring him on when you are winning a game and you just want a little bit more extra defensive security, but you want to still have a goal scoring threat. So for the skills, I would put on Hwang. I'd probably put weighted pass on him just to help with that phenomenal pass, long range shooting, double touch, flip flap, and soul control. And that's mainly because he also has the very high weak foot. As I mentioned, that ball roll onto either foot will be very good with the very high weak foot. Just to reiterate, why is that ball roll so effective? Because I'm going to be recommending it on a lot of players here, and I always recommend that on players. The reason that level 3 ball roll is really effective is because it essentially resets your player's balance. So if your player's off balance, then you hit the level 3 ball roll. Once you finish the animation, your balance is reset. It resets at the start of the animation, which is also why the double touch shot is good, where you shoot before the double touch animation finishes. Now, if you're someone who doesn't really like doing the ball roll, I guess you could put like an aerial superiority on him instead. I'd probably keep the double touch just to have it in your back locker. Yeah, an aerial superiority and a heading might work, and maybe one touch pass too. Now, I don't think you need one touch pass on your forward players. I have a video on that about why 1-2 passing is so broken in this game, but it is just to give you options. Okay, so the next player we're going to look at is Amrabat, and he is a box-to-box. Now, I've actually used Amrabat before in this game, just probably the GP version on loan, honestly, in events, Turkish League events when they used to do them. He's actually got a good player ID in the game, so I think this guy could be pretty decent. Now, if we level him up, though, like he is a box-to-box, but he's not extremely well-rounded. Like, he's definitely a defensive-minded box-to-box. You can see that finishing there is pretty low. So if we just take the boost off for a sec, we're just trying to get that 90 on all defensive stats engagement, 85 speed for the 88, because speed is very important with defending, particularly on midfielders. You can cover a lot of ground very quickly. And then he does have 77 physical contact to start, so I just get 1 point in there to get it up to 88. In terms of his passing, I don't think you need to put the pass stats that much higher because I already have a Mateus with these pass stats. Probably it might even be just under 80, and he's fine. And if we look at Amrabat's skills, he actually does have a lot of the passing skills to start. And then his Showtime skill is Visionary Pass. So if you don't know what Visionary Pass does, is when you make the pass with Amrabat, whoever receives this pass is either going to have a better first touch, first time shot, or first time pass. From my experience using it, I don't notice it as much with the first time passes. The first time shots, it's hit or miss. Sometimes it feels like there's no benefit, and then other times you really do notice the benefit. And then also first touch, again, it's a bit hit or miss. Sometimes you notice it, sometimes you don't. I think first touches in this game are kind of, what would the word be, kind of universal. Like everyone's first touch is in a very narrow range and there's not too much differences between them. But visionary pass can be very good if you link them up with a bulkier striker like a Haaland, someone that you want to just kind of be a sharpshooter with like Haaland, Lewandowski, Van Nistelrooy, these type of players. Visionary pass can work very well with. Now he does start off with track back, interception, and blocker. And then someone in a stream recently told me blocker helps with intercepting passes, and I'd never kind of noticed it before. But a couple games after, I used a player with blocker and didn't have interception, and I did notice he actually did intercept a little bit better. So he's going to be pretty good in the midfield for shutting down your opponent. Now for the skills, I'd go for weighted pass again, just to help that visionary pass play into the showtime skill. I'd give him man marking just to make him really, really good defensively. Cut behind and turn, obviously, I recommend that in every training guide. It's one of my favorite skills. Double touch just to help him because he hasn't got the greatest dribbling stats. The animation can help you dribble by people. And then usually on a box to box, I would want first time shot or long range shooting. But if we just go back to the build again, his shooting is very poor. So I don't think, I don't know if 90 kick and power and 60 finishing is going to be enough. If you have 90 kick and power and 70 finishing, your long shots will be decent with the skill. 60 finishing, I'm honestly not 100% sure, so I can't give a really confident kind of recommendation on that. But you could go for aerial instead, because if you just look at him, like, you can probably play him in DMF instead of centre mid. This guy would be a very good deep line box to box. Like if you play two DMFs, him alongside a destroyer or an orchestrator would be very good. So he doesn't look too bad to me. And again, as I said, I have used a different version of his card. We'll look at the next striker here. This is Kolo Muani, and he has phenomenal finishing. Now I have used phenomenal finishing before, and it's a skill that I honestly don't think is that great. I just don't notice it that much. I think you have to have really high finishing stats as well as the skill to really make the best use of it. For the build I went with, this is what I have. So you can see here without any boosters, we have 85 finishing, 87 speed to get us to 90, and we still have 4 points left over. So I just put the stats on again. So with these leftover stats, there's not extreme amount you can do. You can put 1 point into shooting and then get a shooting booster like Fantasista maybe, anything really. Or if you don't want to do that and you're happy with 88 finishing, because 88 finishing is pretty good. Like it's like a minimum I would use at this point in the game. To be honest, actually 90 would probably be the minimum I'd use in a striker. But 88 finishing on your left wing, your AMF is pretty good. Now this guy's obviously centre forward, and I probably would play him there. I don't think he's nimble enough to play on the wing, even though his positions allow him to. But with these extra dribbling points, you can get the 85 ball control and dribbling. Now dribbling is how fast you run with the ball at your feet, so it's tied into speed. So if you want to use this guy's pace, not that he's extremely fast, but you want to level that dribbling up a little bit more. And if you just want to make him a bit more nimble, just go an extra point into dexterity. And if you put the fantasies to boost, this is what it would look like. With an extra point, that can go into aerial. To be honest though, I don't think his Kolo Muani is going to be very much use. To be honest, like if you should already have like that free David Villa. That's not Fernando Torres for 500 coins, a lot better player than this, I would assume. I don't really think Kolo Muani is someone you should go for, really. But for the skills, I'd give him outside curler. He only has medium weak foot accuracy, which is obviously another reason why I don't think he's that great. That outside curler, you probably want to put it on him to compensate. I'll just give him long range shooting. I put it on all my strikers pretty much just because sometimes you're going to be on the edge of the box 1-on-1 with the keeper, and you want the extra little bit of help. You'd probably give him the ball roll with soul control and flip flap. But if you don't want to do that, the other skills I'd recommend are up behind and turn, aerial superiority, and fighting spirit / super sub. So he actually is pretty tall, 187 centimeters, and he has aerial, so the aerial superiority might not be too bad on him. But again, overall, I don't think he looks like a great card. Next we'll look at Bastoni. So I was actually just saying on stream the other day, I had a Showtime version of Bastoni, and he really wasn't good. I think it was an extra front man though. And this is a build up, which is good. But yeah, he really wasn't good. And he had like all 90s in defending stats, and this was like a year and a half ago, so that was pretty good at the time as well. And then I changed his build to like low 80s in all the defensive stats, and leveled his pass and dribbled a lot more. And he was a much better player. And honestly, I didn't really notice a downside in the defensive ability. If we just go to the build that I have for him, you see this is what we're working with. You would need to put a booster on though just to get the 90s, because it's just a baseline I like to have. So if we went dueling, now dueling gets the engagement and aggression. Does any actually of the boosters, maybe hard worker? Okay, hard worker gets the aggression up. Now I actually said in the video the other day that defensive engagement isn't that important on centre backs. Actually, I might be able to pull up the comment. Yeah, so David, who's in my streams pretty often, said, "Great video, man." Now I responded to him on stream, but we'll respond to it here as well. He says, "I think engagement has a lot more to do with what you're crediting it for. It's responsible for how responsive players are to the ball. Basically, their engagement with the ball has less to do with positioning. Higher engagement leads to more blocks, interceptions. I don't know if you've noticed, but players with really high engagement intercept and block a lot more." So yeah, I usually say like you don't need the level engagement, but I only really say it when it's looking at a centre back because of their position on the pitch. But what David's saying here about the higher engagement leading to more blocks and interceptions, I can't say it's something I've definitively noticed, but it's something that I might have noticed actually recently with Maldini. So I did a Maldini review and mentioned how he's got the best blocks in the game, pretty much, in my opinion, and he has 97 defensive awareness. So, or sorry, defensive engagement. So like that could be a indication that the engagement is important for that. But then I looked at the other players I have, and like Vieira, Tomiyasu, like these guys, they only have in the region of 90 and 92. And Maldini was or is better at blocking than them guys. But I still think you can kind of get away with the lower engagement because, as I said in the stream responding to him, when you defend with your centre backs, you should be doing it manually, like pretty much most of the time. Like every other position on the pitch, you're setting traps for your opponents, you're tracking runs, but you're using the AI a lot to do a lot of the work. But once the ball gets into the striker's feet, you need to switch into the centre back. But I think manually defending is more important for the centre backs. And I don't know if engagement, because it's the propensity to kind of do defensive actions. I don't think it's as important for the centre backs because if you're playing optimally, you should be controlling the centre backs. Now, a skill like blocker, like I think you should put blocker on your defenders or your centre backs rather. But if you manually control your centre back, like blocking a shot is pretty easy even without the skill. But the thing is, there will be instances where your opponent plays a quick pass into the striker and shoots first time. You need the blocker to automatically go in and block. So I guess the way to sum it up is, if you have higher defensive engagement, your player will defend better as centre back, even if most of the time you're manually defending. It's just usually I like to have a well-rounded card and invest more into the passing and the dribbling, even on centre backs. Like all my centre backs are very good ball playing centre backs. And that's what Bastoni is. So Bastoni actually has pretty good stats to start off with. His balance isn't extremely high. It's good for a centre back though. But I feel like in game he feels a bit more nimble than these stats suggest. And actually, if you look at his player model is very high in pretty much every aspect. So this guy probably won't be too bad. Now, if we just go to his skills, for the skills I'd recommend on Bastoni, you can see he does start off with a lot of the passing ones. So I would just give him true passing to complement that. Probably the one you would put on first. Maybe you'd probably actually for a centre back, you'd probably go one touch pass first, and then it's a toss up between low lofted pass and true passing. But he's definitely going to need aerial superiority. It's a unnegotiable for me on centre backs, like the amount of long balls like I played up to the striker. You need your centre backs to be good in the air. I don't think this guy's going to be great in the air, but it probably would be needed. Now, if you're choosing Bastoni, you probably want them because of his ball playing ability. So you probably would agree with me that you would want cut behind in turn and gamesmanship on him because you want to carry the ball out of your kind of final third into the midfield with him. And then lastly, I'd probably go for soul control just to help do a knock on and set up a long pass across the pitch. But honestly, yeah, he doesn't look too bad to me. But we're going to look at what I would assume most people say the best player in this pack, and it is Gnabry because he's got very high weak foot, and if we look at his build, he's actually got very good stats as well. Now, he is a cross specialist, so that's going to be a bit of a deal breaker for some people. Now, if you're a cross spammer and he has edge crossing too, you're probably pretty happy. To be honest, I don't think cross a cross spam playstyle even needs cross specialists. I think you can just use out wide, or even if you just play normally, you just kind of dribble the ball out wide with the players. But like I'm looking at this card, and if this card didn't, like, you know, as a creative playmaker or prolific winger or Roman flank, I think he'd be a lot better. But yeah, this is the build I went for. You can see we got 85s in all the dribbling, 85 in the finishing, 87 on the curl, 85 speed, and then the kick and power. Like everything's above 85 that you would want, except for the stamina and the lofted pass for him. Now, when we put the booster back on, he does get 70 physical contact, so he will hold off the opponents. I guess the only problem with this card is that he's a cross specialist and he has low lofted pass. Like, it doesn't complement each other. I do think this guy would be much better as I said, a different play style. Now, if we just look at his skills, the skills I'd recommend on him are the double touch and flip flap, because he already has soul control and he has that very high weak foot. It'll work very nicely. I'd probably go first time shot as well. I'd go acrobatic finishing. I think 92 balance. Yeah, you probably need acrobatic finishing. I'd go for fighting spirit or super sub, depending on if you're going to take him off the bench or not. And then I do have a 6 skill to recommend. Obviously, you can't put 6 skills on the players, but I think Marseille turn can be very good for setting up the cross. He already has put behind in turn, which is also, like, I think 2 skills that set up the crosses very well are put behind turn and Marseille turn. If we just go back to his build for a sec, actually, because I forgot to tell you what booster to put on. For the booster, I think maybe just get something to get the dribbling stats to 90, so you would need something else. You would need, yeah, ball carrying there. Like, to be honest, that's the only real threshold I'm seeing, so I'd say that's the best second booster to go for. So I think overall, if I had to pick a player who's going to be the best, I think it's Gnabry. Like, he's going to be the best. I'd say Amrabat might not be a bad show either. I think he's getting nominating contract cards in the past, though, so you probably already have a different version. The cards I wouldn't go for, I definitely wouldn't go for Kolo Muani. And we got a free Kolo Muani recent enough, I think, as well. I probably wouldn't go for Wang, and I probably wouldn't go for Bastoni. But yeah, I'd probably go for Gnabry or Amrabat. But actually, in the other packs that came out, there's another nominating contract one here. There's a couple box-to-box players in there, so I'll be making a video on that after work and let you know my thoughts in there. And then obviously a Blitz Curler Mbappe came out today, which is interesting to look at. But anyway, let me know your thoughts on these cards and who you're going for. Bye.